Hi, everyone. Welcome to week two. I hope you all made it back to wherever you are. Um, and welcome to my office. You're going to cause me to clean it up, I suppose, given that we'll probably produce many of the recorded videos here. Um, Today, I'd like to talk to you about an object that we're all familiar with, the chair. And I'll bring your attention to your two readings on the subject for the week. Um, One is from Charlotte and Peter Field's Thousand Chairs, a fun book to own, inexpensive. And it is, of course, A Thousand Chairs. And I've given you a selection of some of them. And the selection is not entirely arbitrary. The chairs are historically important or intriguing and can be roughly broken into the categories that Galen Cranz introduces in the first two chapters of The Chair, which I've also given you. Now, we're not going to design any chairs, so why are we looking at them? Well, there's only a couple of things in the world of designed products and objects and systems that is universally experienced, and the chair is one of them. We could argue that buildings are the other, but the chair is a nice contained object that we can use as a way of starting a discussion about, the decisions that go into design. And I'll begin with a very short story from my own life, one that I think will resonate with a few of you, which is, what is the chair you're sitting in right now, and what does it represent? So I have a very kind of common office chair. This is the Herman Miller Aeron chair, and I bought this because I decided that I deserved it. Um, and the first time I ever sat in an Aeron chair, I worked in an architecture firm where the only person who had one, this is a fairly expensive chair um, and very much emblematic of a kind of corporate office environment. And the only person who had one in my office was the boss. How ironic that the person who sits in the chair the least, and this particular boss actually spent most of his time working in another office, um, and only spent one day a week in the office I was in, and so 4 days out of 5 his Aeron chair sat in his office empty. And when he did come into the office, he tended to be coming around and talking to people, and he wasn't sitting in his chair. So one day, I took my comparatively crappy chair and I brought it into his office, and I took his chair and I sat down, and this wreaked havoc in the office environment. The politics of this were untenable, and I actually had the chair taken away because it wasn't sustainable for me to have the one good chair and to have all of my colleagues around me have crappy chairs. And Galen Cranz tells a variation of this story in her book. This that there is has been identified. It has been identified that there's a strong correlation between the status of the people, between status of people and the chairs they sit in. And this doesn't make any sense. The people who should have the best chairs are the people that sit in chairs the most. And I think one thing that we're beginning to learn in the 21st century, of course, is that chairs aren't even any good for us. And Cranz begins her story of the chair by pointing out that, in fact, we don't need chairs at all. They are a 100% culturally constructed object that we have chosen to consume and make use of and organize our life around. Sitting behind me is the chair that Leah sat in when she came the other day. We found this in the hallway, a very kind of generic and inexpensive molded plastic chair, made on a machine that can probably produce 5,000 of the tops per day. The kind of stacking chair we've all seen. There are so many reasons why the chair is interesting to us. It's interesting to us because of what it represents politically and culturally. It's interesting to us because the chair is an anthropomorphic object. It has arms and legs and backs. We've literally named the parts of the chair after the parts of the human body. It's emblematic of the fact that we have such a strong personal relationship with the object. Chairs vary enormously in expense, in material, in the amount of design energy that goes into them, and the kind of design energy. The Aeron chair is an evolution of Ambos's vertebra chair, a chair that is designed to both help us sit, but also look like it helps us sit. Its aesthetic qualities have been carefully tailored to sort of suggest the human form whether they in fact reflect the human form or not. And there have been so many attempts to make properly ergonomic chairs, and they all work or fail to varying degrees. Whereas the molded plastic chair represents a kind of design energy oriented towards efficiency. It needs to stack, it needs to be cheap, it needs to fit in as little space as possible, and ideally be assembled from as few materials as possible, using as few fasteners as possible. The chair is an object that you would be hard-pressed to find a person in America who does not have a chair. And certainly people who don't have chairs exist, but even if they don't have a chair of their own, they experience a chair on a near daily basis. So we're going to spend this week's exercises exploring the chair, and in one of the exercises, I would like you to take notice of the chairs that surround you, perhaps for the first time, document them and reflect on them. What do they mean to you, and how does their design impact your life? And let's go from there. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.